Okay, so then let's compare Suneung and NEET more in detail. In Suneung, we have a question to answer about graph description. Students have to identify one sentence out of 5 which doesn't stay the same in the graph. I will show the example later. So usually that question has a long passage and they question about the reading passage. And in NEET, they convert it to make a presentation on a given graph, and it will help you to understand better. This is the typical Suneung question and graph question. They give you the graph, and they show the introduction phrase. Now, from 1 to 5, students have to identify which doesn't stay the same based on the graph. And if you read quickly, the test makers wants to focusing on how students use adjectives such as second most, or more, lower, or the less, or the least. That's they're focusing on, that whether students can identify those specific adjectives, right? And when I convert this exercise to NEET speaking and writing test, I made this. I give them a graph, and I present them the first topic sentence, then give them a guideline, use more, most, and less, and least, make a speech, or then make a composition based on this to describe this graph. And of course, in NEET, they don't use this complicated graph not right now, because they are now making their question banks, which is accumulated such and such. So they are not up to this far, but I'm sure within few years, they have to discriminate between advanced or the intermediate or lower levels. They probably have to get to the point using this kind of depths and a series graph someday. The common errors. When you teach students, you have to know what they make errors most part, and you have to guide them in a better side. And this is very interesting writing tool. The Ministry of Education now is gone. You cannot find anywhere. I don't know why they hide it. But Ministry of Education first represents the writing tool program. That's what they call on their website. Prior to officially launching NEET website. In the program, students explore 77 sentence structure based on specific grammar. And now I want to share some of the students' practice results so we can see how it works. The problem is I find it adopts mechanically or automatized correction. So only if the students make exactly same pattern of the sentence, then they will get a perfect score. Otherwise, they won't. Let's see. The teacher's answer on this program shows I read a Korean history book so that I could know more about Korean history. My student responses to instead using conjunction so that, they use preposition by, but exactly same meaning. I could know more about Korean history by reading Korean history book. For me, it looks the same, but to the computer, it doesn't. So she got only 3 points out of 6. And probably that's why they retreat the writing program. But the thing is, they try to make an effort as much as they can, right? The second one is exactly the same matches. The Earth is bigger than the moon. The student used lowercase instead of uppercase, but it's fine. But the last one, look closely. She got 0 point out of 6. The target answer is the lower prices are, the more people buy. The computer wants the comparative, comma, the comparative form. And students use comparative forms a little bit different way. People get more as the prices become lower, right? A little awkward and a small minor mistake in errors and spellings and grammar, but still okay. I would give him maybe 3 to 4 out of 6 rather than 0. So, yeah.
And that's all a computer?
Yes, that's all a computer doing.
They don't use a panel of judges to put them over?
Well, the thing is, in the real NEET test, that me as a judge or the referee do this manual job. But for the students to practice, they run this program mechanically. So they don't get to meet a person or a teacher in person.
They get a poor view of themselves.
I know. So it says in Korean, there are too many errors, you have to rewrite the sentence, but it doesn't. It has something good points out of it, so they make a good out of it. And, so this message is kind of wrong delivered, I would say. Right?
Because in the U.S. when they do tests and it's a miscue,
Yeah.
it's using creativity.
Exactly.
You put it in a different word,
Right.
it's still okay. The teacher
That's
still
why.
does.
That's why a person like me, as a referee, put it in as a to test the writing or the speaking.
More than one way to handle
Oh yeah, absolutely, I agree. So there are a few guidelines that we can provide the student to build a grammatical correct sentence with a full lexical use. First, yes. No, this was like a temporary writing tool program which run by the Ministry of the Government of Education, but now they're gone. They're providing new tools to improve the writing and speaking sessions. But I want to show the example that the transition process. Okay? Now, when you visit a NEET official website, you will find 2,000 and 3,000 NEET essential vocabulary list. I wasn't able to bring it up, but there's also 200 useful expressions, colloquial expression you can use. And it's interesting to say there is a book called 4,000 Essential English Words published by the Pole Nation and Campus Media, and I made a cross-reference from his series 1 to 6 and NEET 2000 and 3000 essential list by the Ministry of Education of Korea. And amazingly, this is the first page of his Pole Nation's book. From Unit 1 to 15, 274 out of 300 on the first page's words are exactly met. And on the second page, 16 to 30, 279 out of 300 words are met, which I want to say that Ministry of Education of Korea put a great effort to make a practical word list so that students can make a better practical English and better sense of it and using it. And I was really pleased when I found out, which is great. Now, in 2011 and 2012, there are only 12 to 13 times of simulation tests for the NEET and 2 times of official tests. There are a lot of pros and cons and trials and errors. Our Jangseong High School was designated as an official testing center, but we were not able to perform the first testing opportunity because the computer went down and internet connection was horrible and the starting time was really different based on the students, and students coming from the different area arrived late so they can conduct the test. So there could be and there will be many more problems than we have before, but I believe we are still in progress. My class is still in progress. I made a lot of mistakes, trials and errors, but I look on the bright side. And for the teachers like me, they prefer teach speaking and writing class. But the thing is, they prefer to have a training session themselves first, right? In order to teach how to speak or how to write, the Korean teachers like me, who is a bilingual, who speak Korean and English, maybe prefer to speak Korean, right? And they wanted to get trained themselves. So Ministry of Education put a great budget and asset. Since 2011, they train teachers, they send them abroad to get a training up to from 6 months to a year. It depends on how their demands are. And I believe they are still in progress and great developments. Look at the interesting overall score, 2.0 to 2.6. For 2 years, governments accumulated revaluation from students. They roughly run the task individually, randomly, not specifically for the advanced level or the lower level. They are all same high school from lower to advanced level. But the overall score on speaking and writing says 2.0 to 2.6. out of 5. This is an amazing score because they never studied NEET before, right? They never had a training how to speak or how to write, and specifically for the NEET test before, because all the testing materials, even myself, I have to swear not to expose any rubric system in detail from the government. If I do, then I got fired, right? I have to leave, make a living. So anyway, but then students took a test without preparation, and some of them had a really free time giggling and laughing, and they spoke Korean during the test. They didn't take it seriously. That's the point. But then still, the overall score shows 2.0 to 2.6, then we have a really positive future to improve for the Korean students how to speak and write, right? We don't aim to make them as a native speaker. We just aim to them to practice English as they learn, right? And most of the time, we are so much of a lack of lesson plan for the writing the most. So we usually borrow the lesson plan or download it online, legally, illegally, it doesn't matter, based on the individual. But as for teacher in public high school, if we make best of the textbook, and if we make the best of the Suneung, which is already given, we all have it, right? I'm sure every Korean ladies and gentlemen sitting in here are very well aware of Suneung patterns, right? But we just deserted, new materials, new vocabulary, new grammar, new test, new textbook. But no, we gotta use from those we already have, because students are very familiar with the materials. We just don't get them to buy new books, but to get them from the seniors learn or what they have, then we can still make the best out of it, right? And I think this is my slide, unfortunately. I was so speeding up. This was my very first time of a presentation, make a speech in public, especially in teacher conference. I attended as audience or the students back in Vancouver, but I got an invitation from Campus Media to make a presentation about the NEET, and I wanted to deliver how I've been teaching in my real class. So you're welcome to make a question, either Korean or English, but yeah, don't get me wasted. Thank you.